Friends, I welcome you all to Tech Academy. You are with me learning Angular. And in today's session, we will be discussing on page lifecycle of Angular. So let's start about page lifecycle. Page life cycle. In Angular, as we discussed in previous session, there is only one index.html page. And this is the entry point for all of my project components to be loaded into DOM object. So DOM stands for Document Object Modeling, as we discussed previously. But when I'm talking about page life cycle, and here I'm having only one page, can we term Angular has page life cycle? Actually, we don't have a page life cycle in Angular. In Angular, every code that we generate, right, it is a part of a component. So if this component is getting into this index.html, which is already residing in DOM, and another component is getting into this index.html, and now the DOM has to understand, saying that already there is a component within this object, it has to accommodate this object as well. So as you can see, there is some sort of connection between component, page and DOM. We call this connection as hook. So this component is hooked into index, which is already residing in DOM. This component is hooked into index, which is already residing in DOM. So the behavior of DOM based on these hooks changes. When I'm talking about behavior of DOM is changed based on these hooks, we can term this as Angular hooks. So instead of talking about page life cycle, it is better if we say about Angular hooks. Now, as we discussed about Angular hooks, now see, this topic is most interesting, and in this topic we are now discussing on Angular hooks, right? Means how the birth of a component takes place, how this is now going into DOM object, how the DOM is behaving based on this component getting into this DOM object. When the purpose of this component is met, the DOM has to kill this component, free some space. So all this we are discussing now. And you know, this is one of the interview question, most asked interview question. Can you explain on any or all of Angular hooks? So as we discussed, right, now to remember the Angular hook cycle, right, it is more complex thing that we have to remember each and every stage. So in simple, we will see how we can remember Angular hooks. So I wrote a formula wherein I say I for C and then U C. Now we will be discussing Angular hooks based on this formula. I foresee. Foresee is something I'm predicting. Okay, something I'm predicting. So I predict what I predicted. You see my prediction. In simple, we can say, just remember I foresee, you see, which is of predicting model. And now let us tie this into our Angular page lifecycle. That is Angular hooks. So what I told was I for C and then you see. This is all about Angular hooks. The very first I represents init, which is initialization. We will learn this. The second C talks about change detection. The third one talks about most important point, content projection. Okay, so the first I is initialization, the second C is change detection, the third C is content projection. And along with content projection, it also does child init. Okay, now initialization, change detection, content projection plus child initialization, and then since content projection and child initialization is completed, now it is time for content initialization. Okay, initialization, change detection, content projection plus child initialization, content initialization. Then comes, since content is initialized now, content is initialized, so whenever a content is initialized, there are chances that this content can be changed. So it does a change detection. Hey, wait. What you are telling me? You are telling me that after initialization there is a change detection happened, and now there is one more change detection. And yes, there is one more change detection with respect to the content that is initialized. This is about the component initialization, change detection. This is about content initialization, change detection. This is getting confused, right? Wait. Let me take an example. So, in this case, let us try to understand. Suppose I have a component here, which is my home page, home component. Okay. Within this, I have a date text box and a button. My requirement is when I select a date, a particular date, and click on this button, which is filter, there should be some data loaded into this page. Okay. So now, if this home component has a filtered data component, FCC, suppose filtered data component, which is my child component. So my home initializes, my change detection happened for this, and now it is waiting for a content projection and child initialization, which is my filtered data component, which is my child loading into this home page, which is my parent page. And then because this child is initialized, there is a grid or table that I will show the data, right? So there is a change detection has to happen, so that this area of the DOM is freed and this part is put into this. You got my point? So initialization with respect to parent component, the actual first component. Change detection with respect to the change that is happening within the parent or the first component. Then content projection. This content can be dynamic in nature. Sometimes it can be a pure HTML. Sometimes it can be a component itself. Only I want to pass the HTML tags, I can pass it. But if I want to pass the component, I can pass the component as well. So it is dynamic in nature. As such, this is dynamic in nature. This concept is also called as content projection. This is most important interview question. What do I mean by a content projection? The projection of a parent component towards a child component, making sure that some dynamic component is getting initialized into parent component, is content projection. So I'm projecting, I'm just looking at this. Okay, something may come, something may come. I don't know what it is coming. So something may come. So that something can be a pure HTML tag, or that something can be a component itself. So that is termed as content. As such, content came, a content is initialized. Since a content is initialized, again there is a change detection happens. So this is an again process. You got my point? This is with respect to parent, this is with respect to child. The behavior is to see whether any change happened within my DOM or not. Now, I foresee, I told this because I foresee, I'm predicting, these all are prediction. Change detection can happen if a component is initialized. I'm just predicting it. A content projection, if suppose I'm not loading any of the component, so I'm predicting a child component will be loaded into my system. I'm predicting as such it is loaded into my system, there is some content initialization and change detection I have to do. Now the fifth interesting, sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sixth interesting hook is all about user. So what does user is? So in this case, user is all about user interaction. User interaction. User interaction means, since this is a child component, I have selected a date picker here, I clicked here, so there is a user interaction happening now. This component is loaded, everything is ready for us to be used. So there is a user interaction. So when I'm talking about user interaction, there are events. So the sixth one is about event handling, which is coming from user interaction. And the last one is component destroy. So I foresee UC is all about Angular I initialization, change detection, content projection plus child initialization, and then content initialization and a change detection, again a user interaction and event handling, component destroy. So let us run through this. In this, I initialized, change detection happened, child component got loaded, now user interaction clicked, and then the data got binded, the component is destroyed. So friends, this is all about Angular hooks. One of the most asked interview question, can you explain any of the Angular hooks? This is all about Angular hooks. I foresee you see. Now with respect to this, if we go with what are the methods that Angular really calls on these hooks is, so this is init, so it will always be on init. Now change detection, it will be on changes. Now content projection, child initialization, content initialization, change detection again can be categorized into do, check, and then here on changes again I'm calling this on changes for the change detection to be happened on on 1 minute. Let me change the marker. So here it is not on changes, it is after content init. Initialization on initialization, changes on changes, content projection to check, content initialization after content initialization, change detection on changes, again the same method will be called, user interaction and component destroy. So on destroy or any other events that we want to call, we can correlate those with these things. So here it will be on view init, on view init, on destroy. So these are the functions that will be called during the Angular hook process. On init is my entry, on destroy is my exit. Within that I have on changes to detect the changes, to do a check for content projection if there is a dynamic content coming within me, and then after content is initialization I will do another round of check, and then I will see the view is initialized, the HTML page is rendered, and then a destroy method is called. All these are void in nature and they are implemented via initialization interface, change interface, and this is about content initialization interface. So these are all coming from interfaces which are inherited as part of methods. So friends, hope you understood about Angular hooks. I foresee you see. Please do like, share and subscribe me. And also from tomorrow, means from next session, we will be discussing on how to write code. The most eagerly we are waiting for to look at Visual Studio Code, right? How to get the Angular into my code, and then what sort of network tree it will have, what is my angular.json object, what is src, what is app module, what is routing, what are pipes, what are components, what are directives, what are services, what are modules, right? All this we will be learning from our next session. Till then, take care, stay healthy. Thank you. Jai Hind.